Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Yesshift Steven's Vinyl Adventures episode. And this time I'm talking about Asia's second album, Alpha. As I mentioned in the year end show last year, I obtained the Alpha a record store in Tustin before an improv show. It's also where I got a copy of the House of Yes DVD, which I've had on VHS but not on DVD. But with today, January 31st, being the anniversary of John Wetton's passing in 2017, it felt like a good time to finally play the record and share some thoughts on that, as well as a couple other things. But first off, I want to remind everyone that today, January 31st, is the deadline to submit to GottliebBros.com for their fourth Yes Stuff book, which is focused on the fans and fan memories and such. So you have hours left if you're watching this live or the day that it came out. So go ahead and submit something there and don't miss out on that opportunity. So I'll talk about the record as well as this video that got posted of John Wetton's final concert from years back, and this newer video that came out from the original Asia page and Frontiers, I suppose I should say. It was on their channel, of Only Time Will Tell, their single from the upcoming Asia Live in England release. So I have this slideshow. Let's see if it shows them in order. For those unfamiliar, I never know how much of the history to go over when it comes to these bands that are Yes related, but as we know, Asia was a supergroup and included Steve Howe, Jeff Downs, both of Yes, and Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, go figure. And John Wetton had been in various bands, and I really feel like Asia was where he felt a bit more like, it felt like more of his vehicle than some of the other bands that he was in. And a lot of my favorite Wetton works are from these different bands, but especially Asia. I remember being introduced to Asia via the Live in Tokyo 2007 DVD, which Dad got for me back in the day. And at the time, I had only really been devoted to watching and listening to Yes. I know that back in 2002, Dad tried showing me Rush in Rio, and for whatever reason, I wasn't ready for Rush yet. I would finally become a full-fledged Rush fan in 2008. But yeah, Asia was pretty much my gateway into checking out other bands. And so I really got invested when that original lineup from these first two albums, Asia and Alpha, reunited in the 2000s and then put out a new trilogy of albums, which I think are really strong. That's my favorite era of Asia, but understandably, I know that some prefer the first two albums, that era, because it was so early on. But yeah, here on Alpha, we have the Roger Dean art. It's different from how he would do the art for Yes, and I like how different it is. On the first album, there was the dragon, and on this one, you have a griffin, I think it's called, and you have the pyramid with eyes on it, which is very fitting because there are a few tracks where even in just the titles, it feels very eye-centric in terms of the themes and wording and whatnot. I see Charles Nolan tuning in on YouTube saying, I bought Asia Alpha as soon as it was released in summer 1983. I saw Asia for the first time late August 1983. Yeah, so this came out, I guess this would have been shortly before Yes released 90125, which is interesting because when I think of the history, I think in my head, I sort of default to thinking, oh, Asia put out their first album, then 90125 came out, then Alpha, which even though I know that's not the case, a lot of time passed making the 90125 album. But yeah, Alpha has the original Asia lineup, and you got Stone in the mix as well. Here's what the back looks like. Of course, it's from Geffen Records. You got the track list there. And yeah, I have it like with me here. So side one, Don't Cry, and The Smile Has Left Your Eyes, which I feel like those two are maybe the most well known from this album, maybe the most live played from this album. Very iconic. Don't Cry has that music video where they're explorers and some in the pyramid, I guess. It's really silly, but I'd rather have it exist than not, just for the what the heck is this factor of it. Never in a Million Years, I feel like is one of the one of the standouts for me. I feel like Don't Cry and The Smile Has Left Your Eyes, and one of the later tracks as well. So side one has Don't Cry, The Smile Has Left Your Eyes, Never in a Million Years, My Own Time, I'll Do What I Want, and The Heat Goes On. So Don't Cry, The Smile Has Left Your Eyes, and Heat Goes On, I got familiar with thanks to that Live in Tokyo DVD. And so I feel like those are probably the most played from the album. Although The Heat Goes On, I often forget if it was from this album or from the first album. Whereas to me, Don't Cry and The Smile Has Left Your Eyes feel distinctly from Alpha. And looking at the backside, I never really took the time to really examine that tower that has a dragonfly slash palm tree type of hybrid architecture. It's fun how you can still find these little things in Roger Dean's art that you might not have paid as much close attention to before. But yeah, I feel like as far as the tracks that are less played live, Never in a Million Years feels like a huge standout for me. It's very catchy. And on the second side, which I quite like how side two is labeled beta. Like you got alpha, side one, beta, side two. Side two, the beta side has Eye to Eye, The Last to Know, True Colors, Midnight Sun, and Open Your Eyes, not to be confused with the later Yes song of the same name. True Colors, I find, has a really enigmatic atmosphere to it that I feel Asia revisited on their Phoenix album in 2008 with the instrumental piece titled Sleeping Giant. But yeah, you've still got some catchy stuff on these tracks. And I know that later on there were bonus tracks as well for this album. There was Daylight, and there was what was it called? Lying to Yourself, yeah. And I gave them a listen to refresh myself on those as well, and they're pretty good. They fit with the vibe of this album, that prog pop or pop prog rock type of vibe. Stuff that could be put on the radio, but is also can be very bombastic. A couple of these tracks are very ballady as well. Like I think My Own Time was very ballady, but yeah, those bonus tracks, they fit with the vibe of the album, but at the same time, I'm not so sure that I have a strong feeling toward, oh man, they should have kept these on the album. I'd be curious to hear if anyone else has different thoughts. Like, would you have swapped a couple of these other tracks for either of those bonus tracks, or what? Because we know that LP length was a thing back then. And let me just go through these other images I have. We got this these pictures of the band lineup, these black and white photos, a nice little time capsule. Um, yeah, and like I said, I got this from a record store, so it had been pre-owned, but putting it on the record player, it still sounds really good. The other side of on the reverse side from those photos, you got the lyrics to each of these songs. And yeah, giving this a spin on my record player was a really nice experience here. I quite like how prominent the Geffen Records logo is on both sides of this. Funny thing about the title Alpha, kind of unrelated, kind of a tangent, but last night I went to see the film 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, with a couple of my friends. And we were talking about how some of the infected in that movie universe are called alphas, and how, like, one of my friends was saying that she doesn't like that name because it reminds her of the how people in the manosphere use alpha, as it's a thing there. To me, it reminds me of werewolves, like in the Teen Wolf TV series, or even of that superhero show Alphas. But yeah, really unfortunate that the manosphere really took a hold of alphas and like betas and stuff like that. It's really annoying. And yeah, I quite like that Asia for their second reunion album titled that one Omega. So it was a really nice full circle thing that they did there. And yeah, I know that this album did well, but apparently didn't do quite as well as the label was hoping. So, when you have such a successful first album and you put something out and you really want to replicate the success of what came before, it's like, for someone like me who has not had that type of success, I think I still would have been like, oh wow, this maybe not as, it hasn't done as much as the first one, but this is still really good. But when you're in the thick of that success as rockers, I can understand how there might be that feeling of like, oh man, why didn't this hit as much as the first one? But I think it's a good record. Um, Whether I prefer the first album over this, maybe I would, but at the same time, I also think I might be more likely to give Alpha a spin again, just because there are songs on here that I feel like I'm not as super familiar with because of the live play. But yeah, for those unfamiliar, my favorite Asia album is Triple X, which is from the reunion era. And the one after that, Gravitas, is also like something like really worth playing. So even though I know people have their nostalgia for this earlier period, and it's a great period for the band, I still feel super satisfied with the direction they went with their reunion albums, and how to me, it felt like they just kept stepping it up, you know, and it felt very much like it made the catalog stronger. The original lineup put out these great early records and we're still able to put out some other great stuff as well. And, that's, also, of course, giving shout out to the records in between with all the other different lineups. There's great stuff there as well. So I also wanted to talk about the video that was posted the other day. This was from a YouTube channel called Visions in Fear, and you'll find the YouTube link in the description of this post. But this was John Wetton's final concert. According to the title, it says John Wetton and Rock Meets Classic. And John only had the microphone. He was only doing vocal duties at the concert that this is from. This is like an 18, 19-minute video, less than 20 minutes. And giving Alpha a spin for this episode was actually really nice timing, because this video begins with "Don't Cry." And, I didn't read what gets played before playing this video. So I was kind of experiencing it as it was going, beginning with "Don't Cry" and then "The Smile Has Left Your Eyes," both from Alpha, and then going to I guess the two biggest hits from the debut album, "Only Time Will Tell" and then "Heat of the Moment." And I know that those are kind of, maybe the Roundabout and All Good People in terms of how much they play those songs live. But man, when they play those songs, it's in any iteration, it's just, I'm with it. So the rest of the people here, like, this was with an orchestra, I should mention. You got Matt Sinner, the musical director. The conductor was Bernard Wunsch. And then the Matt Sinner band included Zlatko Kresic on keyboards, Oliver Hartmann on guitar and vocals, Alex Bayroth on guitar, Moritz Mueller on drums, Matt Sinner on bass and vocals. I quite liked the interplay on the stage. And on vocal duties, you have Amanda Somerville, Tiffany Kirkland, Kolinda Brozovic, and Sasha Krebs. And the mix was done by Kim Kohler, arrangements by Sinner, Kresic, and Wunsch, executive producer Manfred Hertlein, and video production by Visions in Fear. And the sound for this video is great. It's a nice, huge sound, bombastic. In between the songs, there are talking moments where the audio will kind of go in and out, but I think that's fine. The music bits are big, at least. And yeah, if this video was available anywhere before, I'd never seen it. I don't know if this is a repost or if it premiered here for the first time, but man, what an amazing performance, and what a great final concert to at least do. And John Wetton, he set the template for the Asia band voice, and he has such a great voice, in King Crimson UK and all that stuff. Icon, there's that Lexicon set that's supposed to come out sometime this year. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. And the Spirit of Asia, like, they've continued to honor him. The page is still called Original Asia because it stems from that lineage. The original lineup came back, the reunion lineup, and then there were personnel changes from there. So even though it's not the original lineup anymore, I still feel like they do justice honoring what came before. You still got Jeff Downs there, got Harry Whitley taking on the John Wetton role, got John Mitchell, Virgil Donati on drums. And the videos I've seen, they have done an amazing job. So the other day, maybe it was yesterday, no, I think it was the other day, they released a video from the Asia Live in England release, which comes out March 13th from Frontiers. So Only Time Will Tell, this is the single from that release. I watched the video, and it looks really fantastically shot, great quality. The sound is, the energy of this lineup is great. It's definitely different from the original lineup, which is to be expected with the different members. Harry Whitley is himself, even though he's, doing justice to the John Wetton stuff. And yeah, this gets me more excited for that release. They played at Trading Boundaries last year, playing the first 3 albums, including Astra. So really great that we're getting these releases, and that we're going to get a new Asia album from this lineup to see like where is new Asia music now, with these individuals working together. There was also a show that happened yesterday. Maybe I'll say what the set list was at the end of this episode, just so people don't get spoiled. But I do see that a post just went up now on the original Asia page. Let's see. I'll just go ahead and read this right now. Asia had an incredible rehearsal yesterday, capped off with a charity warm-up gig. Thank you to all those who attended. It was a very special night. As a special one-time offer, fans at the show were invited to have their name featured in the booklet of the forthcoming Asia studio album. The minimum donation was £100 per name. Proceeds from this offer will go to the Love, Hope, Strength Foundation, the cancer charity dedicated to saving lives one concert at a time. Your support will help fund additional equipment and cancer care programs in the UK and access to treatment for patients from underserved communities in Africa and Asia, the continent, that is. Love, Hope, Strength was co-founded by the band's old friend, fellow musician Mike Peters of The Alarm and his wife, Jules. Mike was an inspiration, encouraging fans of his music to get involved in raising money for and awareness of cancer support. Mike harnessed support from across the music industry before he died last year. His altruistic spirit lives on, and the Love, Hope, Strength Foundation continues to maintain strong partnerships Mike initially developed with clinicians across the globe. Many of us in this room have experienced cancer, and I'm sure we all know a loved one facing a cancer diagnosis and will understand the importance of supporting the Love, Hope, Strength Foundation to help provide additional help for hospitals and patients. Thank you on behalf of Jules Peters, who continues to be part of the charity, and all those who will benefit from our help, for showing your support this evening. We're happy to keep this special offer open for 12 more days. If you'd like to support the charity and have your name included in the album booklet, please visit our Just Giving page. And the post includes a link. I guess this would be at justgiving.com. I'll try to include this in the description. And I'll put it in the comments right now while I'm at it. I see a comment from Chris Berry tuning in right now from Facebook, saying, I saw the Asia concert last night. Was also at Trading Boundaries the night the new video was shot. They really are very good. Yeah, I agree. It might not be the original lineup, but it's still part of that lineage. And they've got great players in this lineup. Let me make sure I think there's a bit more in this post I needed to finish reading. Please include your first name and surname along with the word album, and that's in all caps in case that matters, and make a minimum donation of £100. This offer will remain open until Thursday, the 12th of February. If you would prefer to just make a donation to the charity, no matter how small, please feel free to use the same link. Thank you. Yeah, so that's a really cool offer right there. Again, to anyone who's able to do that, it's there. And yeah, I'm just really glad that the spirit of Asia still continues in one form or another. Really excited for these live releases. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but I hope that all of the Trading Boundaries shows, each of the different albums get a release. Yeah, I guess I could look up the track list when I have a moment, but yeah, real exciting stuff. Remembering John Wetton and all the amazing musical contributions he left us with. So yeah, give something with Wetton on it a spin today. And again, if you don't want spoilers, I'll go ahead and look at what the set list was for this concert. And I am using setlist FM, so if it's inaccurate, feel free to correct me, throw in your 2 cents on if there was anything different. But yeah, this is at Corn Exchange, Newport, Wales. Before I read it, just want to mention that I'll be back on here going live on Tuesday, February 3rd at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK time. I'll be reviewing a Spock's Beard concert I'll have seen the night before. And then the next Vinyl Adventures episode, which might be next Saturday, the 7th, will be about the Live at the Budokan 1983 show. I got that box set, which I've had for a while, but believe it or not, I have not listened to the vinyl record from it. So I'll finally give that a listen. You know, that show, those shows where they had Greg Lake, and that'll be in honor of the current Asia lineup going to Japan. Yeah, so that'll be fun. Chris Berry says, was Corn Exchange Ross on Y, which is just in England? Yeah. And as for the Symphonic Live episode, I think that'll come after this next Asia episode that I mentioned. So it'll be not next week, not this coming week, but the week after. I'll figure something out. But yeah, I'll go ahead and read what the set list is according to Setlist FM. Hopefully it's completely accurate. So the set list was Time Again, The Heat Goes On, Here Comes the Feeling, Eye to Eye, Lucky Man. Wow, an Emerson, Lake and Palmer song. I bet that sounded amazing. Only Time Will Tell, Open Your Eyes, Cutting It Fine, The Smile Has Left Your Eyes, Wildest Dreams, and then there was a drum solo. And then Go, that's from the Astra album, Heat of the Moment, Soul Survivor, Daylight, that's one of those alpha bonus tracks, Don't Cry, and Video Killed the Radio Star. Wow, so a Buggles song right there. To me, that's kind of an odd song to end an Asia concert with. Like, I could understand having it in the middle, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll shift it around for the next shows that happen, but I'm kind of surprised that if this is accurate, I'm kind of surprised that Heat of the Moment wasn't the closer as it would normally be. But yeah, we'll just have to see how these future shows go, I suppose. But anyway, if you tuned in live or watched the archive, thanks for tuning in. It's always fun to, you know, as someone who did not grow up with a record player and just acquired one within the last couple of years, it's nice to sort of reflect and sort of tie in to these other things that are going on. Like, there's always something to talk about, you know? So thanks for tuning in. I'll be back on Tuesday reviewing the Spock's Beard show, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.